Let's speak to Kieran Kelly, who is from the campaign group Be Reasonable Scotland, which opposes the smacking ban. Let's get Kieran on. Hello, Kieran. Welcome to the programme.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening. You know, we should have got Una and Kieran on together to find out their thoughts because they have completely different views. So, Kieran, what do you think then? The smacking ban. Why are you opposed to it?
Well, it's not necessary. And let's start with that. The current law already protects children. So let's keep the current law. Let's recognise it protects children. Let's enforce it, but certainly let's not try expanding it beyond the boundaries that it needs to be. Changing the law or banning smacking, as is going to happen in Scotland, as is being talked about in Wales and is being suggested even now in England as well, is going to turn good parents into criminals. I didn't catch everything that you were talking about earlier on. I heard snippets, but I know you were discussing with Jackie a bit about, well, is it going to criminalise parents? Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. That's what it's going to do, because it removes this recognition in the law that the relationship between a parent and child is different to the relationship of, say, me and you, or you and some random person on the street. You have a different relationship with your child, and the law recognises that, and it allows parents, good loving parents, to administer a tap on the back of the legs, a tap on the back of the hand, that sort of thing, in an appropriate fashion. What it doesn't allow parents to do, right, even now, what it doesn't allow parents to do is to give their kids a whack round the side of the head. And unfortunately, the way this gets talked about by some people, I think it's very wrong, is it essentially gets equated to child abuse. And there's very strong laws against child abuse in our country already. Yeah. And parents, loving parents who want to discipline their children in an appropriate fashion, are being equated with child abuse. I think that's very wrong.
I agree with you.
Yeah, because, I mean, it seems, because I would never smack my children. It's in a way that would, damage them or hurt them.
Never round the head. Never.
I mean, that would just be unthinkable. I mean, I cry if they're ill or they're in pain, so I wouldn't deliberately put them in pain just from being annoyed or angry, or if they've done something wrong. But how bad is the problem then? Is it that there are lots of parents sort of beating up their kids, or is it not really a big problem? Because I don't see it, but then I don't know. Your thoughts, Kieran? Is it?
Well, I suppose the real question is how many parents are doing that and then claiming, it's reasonable chastisement. And in the last, I think it might be something like 10 years, but certainly a good while, there's been something like 3 cases in England where the reasonable chastisement allowance within the law has been used. Certainly, I mean, we've got to be brutally honest about this. There are parents who will abuse their kids, and that is tragic, and that is appalling, and that is absolutely wrong, and it is illegal.
Yes, it's already illegal, isn't it?
So banning smacking isn't going to affect that. What it is going to do, and this is one of the things that I really worry about, and it's one of the reasons that we started the campaign, is because there are these children out there, and police and social services do their best to get to these children and to rescue them from the situations that they're in. If you throw into that situation a boatload more kids who are growing up in loving families, and their parents are giving them the occasional tap on the back of the hand or smack on the legs, and police and social services get involved, that's going to add massively to their workload. And let's be honest, they're already pretty well stretched.
Yeah.
I think everybody recognises that. So you throw in all these extra cases. What happens to the kids who genuinely need their help? They're at much greater risk of being missed, because you have all these extra cases of essentially what has been for generations has been recognised as appropriate loving discipline. You have police investigating them, and there's the chance of criminal charges being brought, and all the damage that can do, people losing their jobs potentially. I mean, not everyone's going to get prosecuted, but even just
not even a tap on the hand, not a tap on the hand, that's a smack. That's illegal. You're not allowed to do that.
But what happens if say for instance, a couple and then the wife smacks the child round the legs and gets prosecuted, for instance, then in the normal way, that would not put a strain on the relationship of the mother and father, because the father probably turn around and say, oh, you shouldn't have done that. But if the wife then gets prosecuted, how much of a strain is that going to put on parents? I mean, the whole thing is, and the whole family, and that's not going to be forgotten for a long time.
That's right. I mean, I'm afraid what we have here is we have a situation of politicians believing that they know better than the majority of the public. And I think the conversation that you've been having earlier on this evening, as I said, I didn't catch all of it. I think that reflects the majority of the population. We've done some polling on this, and consistently, poll after poll says about 3/4 of public think parents shouldn't be criminalised. Something like 85% of people say that they were smacked as children. If we're equating people who give an occasional smack to child abusers, are we seriously saying that 85% of our parents are child abusers? It's nonsense. But unfortunately, certainly in Scotland, it remains to be seen in Wales, but in Scotland, they've turned a deaf ear to the public, they've turned a deaf ear to the social workers and people who understand the law, who are saying, how is this really going to be workable?
How is it going to be workable? Is it possible?
To bring in what is just such a terrible, terrible law. And you can just imagine the damage it's going to do to umpteen families, where police and social services start getting involved and suspicions are raised, and a neighbour says something that's happened.
The other thing is kids can be quite creative, and that's not to say that but my daughter will say, oh, this happened and that happened at school and this and that, and I as a parent feel I want to defend her, and I might go into that school and find out what actually happened, and turns out that it wasn't quite as she described it. And so how are they going to protect parents from that side of things? Because a child could make something up.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and as I say, I mean, I'm not suggesting that in every instance someone is going to get fully prosecuted, but we do have a habit in this country of following the law. And I mean, one of the things that's said is, well, there's all these other countries. Look at all these other countries around the world. You hear different numbers bandied around. There's around about 52 countries which have done something in their legal system to do with smacking, in terms of let's call it banning for the sake of argument. But when you actually look at those countries, very few of them have actually banned smacking. Very few of them have said we are going to criminalise parents who have done this. What they've tended to do is they've said something like, we think smacking is a bad idea. Now, it's not the same thing as saying we think smacking is a bad idea, and if you do it, we're gonna prosecute you, which is what we're planning to do in this country. And people will have different views on it. I mean, the lady that you had on before obviously had a view on it, and that's fine. People will have different views, and not everyone will choose to smack. I think you said yourself that you wouldn't choose to smack, and that's fine. I'm not here to advocate smacking. We're not saying parents ought to smack. We're saying don't criminalise parents who do choose to do it in a reasonable way.
Well, listen, Kieran, we're running out of time in this hour, but thank you so much. That's Kieran Kelly, who's from the campaign group Be Reasonable Scotland, which opposes the ban on smacking.